Hi, guys. Welcome back to the Going with the Flow podcast. I know it's been a while. I apologize. I'm not the most organized person. But today we have a super exciting episode with Mario. Hi, Mario. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be on this podcast.
It's amazing to have you on. And I have literally followed Mario since the very beginning of my journey. So I can't
Oh,
even tell you how excited I was when you said yes to coming onto this podcast. And yeah, I know that we've got loads to talk about, and you
yes.
guys, the Flow community, is going to have, so much. There's so much to learn from you because you just
Oh,
had an incredible journey, so much experience in the marketing industry. So yeah, excited to just get started. And again, thank you for coming on. Do
yes,
you
of
want
course.
to give a little intro to yourself and
Yeah.
sort of just about you?
Sure, of course. Yeah. So my name's Mario Marino. I've been in kind of the marketing industry for, this is going to make me sound really old, but I promise I'm not that old. I've been in the marketing industry now for 12 and a half years. Really kind of started my career in social media right when Instagram launched. I went to school for communication studies and advertising, not really knowing what I wanted to do. And then this thing called social media hit and just took off. So, I've worked for a lot of big brands out there: Guess Jeans, Forever 21, L'Oreal Paris, H&M being kind of the biggest. And as of this last summer, I decided to pivot. I've always kind of been on the corporate brand side of things, and I decided to start my own marketing consulting agency. So now I consult on various marketing projects and help brands kind of uncover and unlock their social media potential. So I've been around for quite some time. And then my social media, I'm also a content creator as well. You can find me on TikTok or Instagram at Follow Mario. Very easy to remember. And if that wasn't enough, I also own my own tea company, which is super random, but I love tea, and my family's from England, so I've always had kind of tea in my blood. So with that being said, as a little COVID project, I started off saying like, hey, I wonder if I could start my own business, and can I make this line of organic, sustainable teas? So it's been great marketing through and through. I think that's from my business to my agency to my previous work. I absolutely love marketing. So I'm very thankful to have that as a career. And thank you for having me on here to talk about marketing, because I'm very passionate about it.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, I think that just goes to show as well, it's such a transferable skill. Like
Mhm.
marketing's relevant to everything, right? If you're going to start your own business, you need, some form of marketing team or,
Exactly.
it's relevant. So it's incredible that you've been able to, pivot and have those different, having your business to
Yeah.
actually starting your own social media agency and also having worked in the industry for 12 years. Like that's just insane in itself.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I guess flow's all about, getting into the industry and sort of helping students and graduates and that difficult time when you just
Yeah.
start at the very bottom, have no experience and pretty much don't really know what you want to do with your life, which
Sure.
I'm sort of still in that stage now. So
Yeah.
my question would be, like going back to the very beginning of your journey, what was it
Mhm.
like getting into the industry for you and
Yep.
what was your journey like? Did you have to do a lot of internships? Did you sort of
Yep.
were you a proactive person? And how did
Mm.
you find yourself sort of working, up the ladder to get to the
Yeah.
positions that you were in?
Yeah, no, really good questions. I think for me it was a lot of hard work. You hear a lot of times people get these jobs and are making six figures right away, and it's not as easy as people think it is. You have to really work hard. You have to prove yourself. It's a highly competitive industry now. Back then when I first started, not a lot of people knew about it. Right, there was no rule book on social media or how to do social media. You were really kind of like figuring it out as you went. So, from that standpoint, it was quite tough. I started out as an intern at Guess, and it was supposed to be only a year-long internship, but ended up being 2 years because I begged to stay on. I was like, I really want to work here. I know you guys don't have a full-time position, but I'm hoping something happens, next year. Would you be willing to keep me on as an intern? And they said, yeah, do this, improve yourself, and work hard at it, and we would love to keep you on board. So I think you have to have a very strong work ethic, and you also nowadays have to be resourceful. A lot of people, going to school for marketing, I hate to say this because this is quite controversial, but for marketing and advertising, you don't learn a whole lot in school. My college college degree, yes, I learned a lot about strategy and I learned a lot about high level theory with marketing and advertising, but nobody really teaches you how to do actual marketing, how to run Facebook ads, how to run why SEO is important, what does backlinking mean, how do you work with influencers. Like those are skills that they don't teach you in college. So for me, I highly recommend, if you're just getting started, be resourceful and learn those. There's tons of YouTube videos, there's tons of certifications out there. You kind of have to do those to stand out now, because everyone's trying to transition into marketing, because they know how scalable and profitable it can be. So you have to put in the work. You have to roll up your sleeves and work hard, and essentially, um, just try to do your best to stay competitive. And marketing changes so much. One second it's Instagram, then the next it's TikTok, then it's something else, the metaverse, the all of this stuff. You have to stay on top of all of that, and educate yourself too.
Yes, 100%. I mean, even in my role now, and I think every marketer can say this, like
Mhm.
there's you can never know everything because it's
Right.
constantly changing every week. Like there's a new Instagram
Yeah.
update or something new on, whatever it might be, there's literally always something new. Um
100%.
and I think it's really interesting as well, your point about college and university and, school and actually learning about marketing, because
Mhm.
I get this question on Flow all the time. It's, do I go and study marketing? And it's also when you're in the industry and you're meeting people, like not everyone has a degree in the marketing field. And
Right.
I think just because, you've not studied marketing, it doesn't mean that you can't get into the industry. And I think
Exactly.
I agree with what you said. Like, I actually studied marketing at uni, well, fashion and
Yeah.
marketing, but
Hmm.
I just when I just didn't feel prepared at all to go into
Yeah.
the industry, and it was such a huge jump. And I remember just thinking, I just these 3 years at school, I just feel like have gone completely over my head, and I've not.
Right.
It's just so different.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that is such an interesting point to make. I'm not saying obviously, don't go to uni and it's not valuable, but
Right. Sure.
I think,
I think, yeah, I 100% agree with you. I mean, looking back at it, I think I might have, knowing what I know now, I think I would have gone back to school and studied business,
mhm,
and really kind of understood more of that, because I felt like my degree, didn't offer the hands-on experience. So I think if you do want to go to school for marketing, if you do want to go to school for advertising, you kind of also need to figure out how to supplement it as well with
mhm,
additional classes, or like just doing your own research on it. Because I would never expect a school to be able to teach me how to run Facebook ads. Like that's what you learn from real world experience. So
mhm.
I think the best way to get your foot in the door is to gain that real world experience, whether that's interning, whether that's freelancing. If you don't have a job yet, and want to gain kind of a job in that space.
Yes, and as much as, it might feel sort of a weird time, and you might not necessarily know, exactly what you want to do, I think that point of just trying different things and doing an internship, it will help you sort of figure out what you're not good at and what you do enjoy.
Exactly.
Because you don't always get that with university. I feel, well, my personal experience, like I didn't get to get exposure to all of the different fields in marketing because it's so vast. Like
Yeah.
there's just so much to learn.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I obviously know you've had like your career, I mean, is just insane, and obviously you've
Oh,
experienced so much. But I know after having seen, some of your TikToks that you've worked for some incredible brands like
yeah.
L'Oreal and, as you've
Mhm.
mentioned, Forever 21. So
Yeah.
what was it like actually, working for these brands and being in
Yeah.
the industry? And, is it like fast paced? Is it like
Mhm.
what it's like in the movies and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah. No, it's extremely fast paced, and it takes a different type of marketer. And I think a lot of people think, oh, I do social media for myself, so therefore I can learn, how to do it for a brand. And you wear a very different hat when you kind of are working for a brand. You're focused on selling something, at least in kind of the space that I was, a lot of retail, a lot of, direct to consumer brands. For me, that's kind of your goal, is to drive conversions, drive brand awareness, drive all of these things. When you're an influencer, you're trying to drive engagement. So it's a very different set of goals that you have. And sorry if you hear any sirens. I live in New York City. So the
It's
city
okay.
that, yeah, it's just
I
nonstop.
literally live next to a main road, and there's honestly the amount of police cars that go round as well. It's a nightmare. So don't
Oh,
worry.
yeah, yeah, it's like a lullaby now, I'm just used to it, but
I can 100%
sorry
live
for
it
you
worse
guys.
in New York though. So
Exactly. But, no, as I was kinda saying, it's just like it just takes such a different mentality when you're working for these big brands, and the
Mhm.
output is insane. So, like, I was working with, at H&M when I was there, we were doing, like, over 50 campaigns per year, which is essentially a campaign per week, and you think about the amount of content that you have added those campaigns, you get, like, 75 to 100 assets, and basically, that translates to posting, 30 times per day. And you just have to make sure that you have the right team, the right structure. I mean, not everybody can do that. Not every business is that large. But when you are a business that big, you have to work at a speed that is a lot faster, but a lot more strategic too, as to what you're putting out there. And I think social media is so important nowadays that like you have to make sure also you're getting it right and not getting it wrong. So you have to be very careful but also very fast at getting kind of your content and information out. But it's a lot of fun if you are the type of person that you wake up and you're passionate about social media, you like change, you like, a million and five different things going on at the same time. It's definitely the industry for you. So,
yeah, and I think that just goes across as well, like marketing in general, because
mhm.
it is just such a fast-paced industry. And I always say to people that do reach out, always read as much as you can and follow
Yes.
like the latest marketing, newsletters and all that sort of stuff,
Mhm.
because it does constantly change, and you sort of need to just be on
Yeah.
top of everything. And that sort of leads me on to my next question as well, which
Yeah.
is, what are the key skills to, be work in social media marketing? Because
Yeah.
I know you've mentioned, the fact that it's so fast paced, and that you need to be organized and on top of everything. But do
Yeah.
you think there's any other like major skills that, or even like personality traits, or,
Yeah.
just sort of anything that you think is detrimental to being able to be a social media marketer?
Yeah, no, I mean, quite a few, to be honest with you. I think some of the key ones that I would definitely recommend is a collaborator. Nine times out of 10, the social media or kind of marketing person has to collaborate with different parts of the organization and functions to understand what are the goals that are needing to be met, what are the campaign focuses, what do the windows look like. All of that helps shape your social media strategy. So you have to be somebody that isn't afraid to kind of work with other teams or put yourself out there to introduce yourself to other teams. If you like working in kind of a silo and doing your own thing, there are types of marketing that may work for you. But as a social media marketer or somebody that is more of a general marketer, you need to have kind of those skill sets. So I would say a collaborator is one. The other is really kind of critical thinker or like a strategist. I think you have to understand how to change and adapt, right? I love the quote, if you rest, you rust. Because I think if you just sit there and stay stagnant, you're not going to have the best in class, strategy. You have to think on your toes. How can you drive selling for this? How can you, drive more engagement? Oh, this trend is coming out. How do we create this trend for our business? Like there's different things that you have to be on your toes for and be
Mhm.
prepared and think critically, but then also strategic to make sure it makes sense for your brand. So I would say those are the two most important. And then I mean, a lot of marketers are like unicorns. They're like analytical yet creative, yet there's kind of like all of these weird contradictions that make up marketers, but you kind of have to be kind of all of that in one to really succeed. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's super, interesting to hear as well, because even my journey, like I've only worked as a marketing assistant and now
Mhm.
in influencer marketing. So I've actually not had a ton of experience with social. So it's really
Sure.
interesting
Yeah.
to hear, hear it from your perspective and,
Mhm.
your experience, because, obviously you've had, so many years working with major brands. So I imagine that, the social knowledge you have, and especially from like this very start of your journey and comparing
Yeah.
what social is now to
Mhm.
what it was.
Very different.
Yeah, I can imagine, like I guess that's quite surreal as well, like how much it
Yeah.
has changed.
Right.
um but yeah, and I think the next point as well that I want to ask you is a lot of the flow community.
Mhm.
They're sort of like in a stage of figuring out what they want to do,
Mhm.
and whether that's freelance or starting their own business, or going into trying to apply for like a huge brand,
Yeah.
like the ones that you've worked in, and to be in a position like that.
Yeah.
So I just wondered, like, because obviously you've got now the perspective of actually having your own business, going solo, and then actually working for these, huge brands. What
Right.
do you think are like the pros and cons, and what do you sort of, I guess,
Yeah.
prefer? I mean, I know it's difficult because I guess
Yeah,
both,
no, it's a good question.
but
100%. Yeah, I think for given and keep in mind this is my own personal experience. I think
Mhm.
everybody has their own experience. Everyone has their own taste as to what they like.
Yeah.
For me, owning my own business is probably the hardest thing that I've ever done, but also the most rewarding thing I've ever done. To have a product that people want to buy, that I created, that I taste tested, that I did everything from the design to what colors are going to be used to what the next tea flavors are that are going to launch, building my website, saying what I wanted in the headers, how I want my logo to look, like all that stuff has just been such an incredible journey. And I think it's something that I'm, the most proud of, to be
Mhm.
able to build something like that. So that's always been a dream of mine, to be able to do. And I think it takes a lot of work, and it's very frustrating in the sense of like, you're not going to be an overnight success. There's some days to where I've had 0 sales. There's some days to where I've had 100 sales, and it's been so inconsistent. But part of it is waking up every day, not being defeated by it, and kind of pressuring on. A huge financial drainer, I will tell you that. If you're trying to start your own business, you have to invest a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of resources into it, because unlike my corporate jobs, I don't have a team of 18 people around me helping me execute marketing. I'm doing marketing, budget, finances, product allocation, like all of that stuff. So it can be kind of overwhelming, but I absolutely love it. So I would say that's a great thing for people that want to do it. I always recommend having your own business as a side hustle first, and really kind of growing and scaling that, and then being able to branch off on your own, once you get it to a place that's scalable. For me, I genuinely enjoyed. I know there's a stigma around TikTok about working for a 9 to 5 job. I loved it. I loved the structure. I love working with a team. I love kind of the collaboration. I'm fortunate enough to where I worked at a lot of really great organizations that have a really good company culture. So for me, that's where I really thrived. On the flip side, kind of being freelancer and starting your own business is incredible too. There's a lot of flexibility in time and scheduling and how you work. I'm the least stressed I've ever been. Let's put it that way. But you work a lot more than 9 to 5. A lot of times people think, your 9 to 5 job, oh, I work 8 hours a day. Well, if you're a freelancer or you own your own business, get ready to work 24/7, like. So I think that there's pros and cons to each of those, but I do have to say there's something to be said about, working for a big brand and taking pride in that, and helping that grow. But on the flip side, there's something to be said about having your own business and that being your baby. So it's really based on what your goals are in life, what you want, what kind of person you are, what your income expectations are, and what you're willing to sacrifice. I think that really kind of lead you to the right answer. I feel like I gave a lot of answers all in one for that one, but
No,
hopefully
no.
that spoke to somebody.
No, that is honestly, like, I feel the exact same. I know obviously I'm in a completely different situation, and that, I'm at the very beginning of my journey, but I also see a lot of this huge like TikTok culture of like quit your 9 to 5,
Yeah,
earn 6 figures, all this sort of stuff. And it's like, no, you don't have to do that. You don't have to not, it's fine to have a 9 to 5 and to enjoy that.
exactly.
Not everyone has to have these huge like side hustles and be
Right,
entrepreneurs. Like,
right.
and I was like, right, I'm gonna go on my own for flow. And then I actually did it, and I was like, I actually feel like incredibly lonely, and this is not actually,
Yeah,
actually like, I think I got this image in my head literally from TikTok. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it was like, it's going to be amazing, and it was sort of glamorized. And then I
yeah,
actually like just sat in my room by myself, having no interaction with like anyone.
Mhm.
And for a 22-year-old, like, I mean, for anyone, that's not good for your mental
Right.
health. And
Right.
I'm the exact same as you. Like, I like being in an office. I like the
Yes.
routine, and I love, like, now. Fortunately, I have a new job that's part time, so
Yeah.
it's great. It's great to go into an office, and the company's great. And
Mhm.
yeah, I think going for anyone who is listening to this thinking, oh, I sort of don't know if I should have a 9 till 5. Like, I personally have worked in a 9 to 5, and then obviously
Yeah.
worked part time for an agency, and I love it as well. So, and again,
Absolutely.
as you said, there is pros and cons to each, and I think further down
Right.
the line, if flow could come into something full time, I don't think I can do it yet because I'm just not organised enough. But
No, you'll get
but maybe one day. But yeah, I think
Yeah.
it really does take a lot of effort and self
Yeah.
motivation as well. Like, so
Absolutely.
I'm curious as well. Like, do you have any sort of tips for that? Because I'll be quite interested
Yeah.
myself. Like, actually having that own routine for your own business, because it's quite
Yes.
difficult. I found to actually like get up and have your own routine.
Yep. Yeah, no, 100%. And I think going back to like what you just said is I felt that too when I transitioned from having kind of a corporate job to going freelance, very lonely. It's like, okay, I'm building this business myself, but I have no interaction from other team members. I'm still working from home. So, we've been here, what are we, past year two now,
Mhm.
of working from home. So it's like, it just, for your mental health, sometimes it's very hard. You're making a lot of connections, or you might find some clients and your clients say, hey, we want to work with you, but now's not the right time. We'll circle back in 6 months. So it's a lot of like reaching out to people, doing a lot of work that doesn't go anywhere. So, once you do land that client, you're like, yes, I got somebody, but still it doesn't fill that void of, having a team, having a ton of collaboration every day, physically going into an office. So I think that's an important thing to know. I think for me, the way that I've really kind of coped with that and kind of managed everything is I'm a hyper efficient person. I gotta show you this. I have like
Oh, I love
a
that.
column. Like, these are all of my businesses, all the things that I do, and I like write at the start of my week, every single thing that I need to check off. And I have adopted kind of the system that is a today list and a to-do
Mhm.
list. And the today list is only 3 to 5 things that I will not finish my day or close my laptop until I finish those 3 or 5 things. And I
Mhm.
have to do all of those. So that is my today list. My to-do list is for the full week. So by the end of the week, I have to get everything on my to-do list done. By the today list, I have to get everything done there. So that keeps me on track and hyper kind of scheduled and accountable to making
Mhm.
sure that I'm getting everything done. And I sit typically on like Sunday nights or Monday nights and kind of write that all out so I can
Mhm.
go into the week very like fresh minded.
Mhm.
But I will say, in regards to mental health, like especially with us all working from home, I've started to go on mental health walks. What I started to find is just like I just needed to be outside. I needed fresh air. I needed vitamin D. I needed to like go out and just like not. I learned about this thing on a podcast. I forget who said it, but it was talking about like mono tasking, which is essentially like the reverse of multitasking, where you pick one thing to do and you like pause and do that one thing, and whatever that is should like relax or help you reset. So like I don't put on my headphones. I don't like do anything. I just like walk and I focus on like just going for a walk. And that's really helped kind of my mental health and kind of balancing it all out. My schedule is crazy. If I were to show you my calendar, you'd be like, what? How does that even make sense? But for me, it's just like making those moments for yourself to like just have something to fixate on without being distracted. And then
Mhm.
also being super organized so that you can be efficient with your time.
Yeah, and I think that is where I just had my downfall, because I just started flow and
Hmm.
I had this huge list of all of these things that I needed to do, because obviously when you're starting out on your own, you have to do
Yeah.
everything. You have to
Yeah.
be the marketer and do all the accounting and then do all of the customer service and everything like that. So
Hmm.
I think because I didn't organize it into a way that, splits it up into, right, today you're going to do this.
Yep.
Instead, I was just looking at this, huge, overwhelming, and sort of intimidating, like, to-do plan, and I was like,
Yeah.
not do all of this. I'm just gonna, and it is tempting. Like it's so
Yeah.
tempting sometimes to just think, I'm gonna give up. I can't do it. There's too much.
Right,
Um,
right.
but
No,
yeah.
100%, and I've been there too, and I think one of the things that you have to keep in mind is, like, how can you break that down? And also, you sometimes need to ask yourself, "Am I doing too much?" Or, like, "Do I am I really getting value out of spending my time doing this?" I for me personally, and nothing against podcasts or anything like that, but for me, I was running a podcast, and it stressed me out so much because of the fact that I was like, oh my god, I gotta like record a podcast this week, and it was too loud in my apartment, or my dog was barking, or like, I had somebody, I only had 15 minutes. So like, for me, what I started to find is like I was spending so much time like stressing out or trying to like plan towards that, but it wasn't getting the same traction as my TikTok content or my social media content. So I was like, I have so much on my plate, I need to cut some things off, and I
Mm,
need to not pay attention to them as much as I want to do it. I can't. And like understanding what you have the bandwidth to do, and also understanding where you have the like impact. For my business, with We Spill the Tea, I decided to like stop doing Facebook posts because I was like, it's not really driving a lot of value to me. It's an extra thing that I have to do, and not everybody's transitioning out of Facebook. Like, why am I spending time focusing on that? So like,
mm,
I think a lot of times people feel like they have to be everywhere and do everything and operate like a big brand, but you don't. You can scale down a little bit and get really good at a few things without having to be like this ultra mega, we have every single service and it's mediocre. Focusing on just like one thing really well, I think has been kind of a great lesson for me.
that is so true. And as well, I resonate with that because I, thought I had to be everywhere, and I'd
Mhm.
see people on like LinkedIn, and they'd have such a huge following, and
Yeah.
I'd feel this pressure of like, I need to do that as well. And even though I'd sort of grew a following on TikTok, it never seems enough. But you have to
Yeah.
sort of set yourself that boundary and limit, because you can't do everything,
No.
with a 10 out of 10 energy and effort, because it's unrealistic, and you're just not going to be able
Yeah.
to achieve it.
But I also think here's something that not a lot of people know is that a lot of these big influencers or big, talents or celebrities actually have a team behind them that are working, to really kind of help them facilitate like relationships with influencers, to create more content for their other social media channels, that is like publishing things on their LinkedIn and Instagram stories and stuff like that. So like, I think it's very easy. I always hear, that quote that like you have the same 24 hours in a day as Beyonce
Oh, yes.
and
Come on,
stuff like that.
Drake.
Yes, I'm a big Beyonce fan, as you know.
Yeah.
So, but I actually heard, I watched this documentary with Beyonce, and Beyonce said that's not true. She was
Mm,
like, not everybody has the same resources that I have in my 24 hours. I don't
yeah.
have to take care of some things that other people do,
Mm,
so that's not a fair comparison. And she said that she's always kind of hated that statement because it's just so unfair. It's not like she's working, way harder than everybody else. She's actually having resources around her. So like, same goes for influencers and content creators, and I think people that are just getting started compare themselves to these influencers that they see that have like tons of people on their team behind the scenes helping them get that. I know so many people that have high quality TikTok videos that outsource it and have video editors like snip it together and like do the captions and make it feel different. That's not something that I'm doing currently, but like, I would love to get to a point to where I scale kind of Follow Mario into something bigger and provide more, production level marketing tips and stuff like that. But it's not my reality right now. So
mm.
I think I have to make sure not to compare myself to those types of people, because then I'll feel like I'm not doing enough, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think as well, like when you are starting out, and not even just starting out in just general life, to be honest, but
Mhm.
it is that fear of, am I doing enough? And
Yes.
comparing yourself to other people, when I think you do have to actually look at reality and think, but I am doing enough, and you
Right.
don't need to, as you say, you don't need to be doing a podcast and all of these different things, because what you have done, and what you've achieved, and looking back on that as well, because I think often people, I don't know if you've experienced this, I've definitely
Yeah.
experienced it, but you sort of get so caught up in everything in your own little world, and you actually forget, oh wait, I've actually done quite a lot and achieved quite a lot, and you just forget
Yeah.
about it, and you're always striving for more, and you know it's so easy to just forget that, and I really
Exactly.
think don't lose sight of it, because you have achieved a lot, and you've came all this huge way, and you've done so much. So just chill out, and
Yep.
everything will be fine. You don't need to stress about it. I definitely
Exactly.
need to
And
take
the number one thing is getting good at one thing and then being consistent with that one thing, right?
Mhm.
So I think consistency is the most important part. If you can show up every day and produce content, or, be a marketer and show up every day and kind of build a marketing plan, you're good. It doesn't have to be 150% every single time. So I think a
Mhm.
lot of people forget that. They feel like they always have to be on performing at their max level,
Yeah.
which doesn't have to be the case.
No, definitely not. And some days I wake up and I will just be wearing joggers and no
Yep.
makeup on.
Mhm.
And I'm not filming a TikTok today. It's just
Yep.
going to happen. And
Exactly.
it's fine. If you don't post for one day, it's not going to be the end of the world. And that's completely
Yes.
fine to have a little bit of a break. Um,
Exactly.
and also not like rush and force content just to get it out, because
Yeah.
you might not be in the frame of mind, and it might not, sometimes, I mean, I've done it before where I just feel just, I don't know, maybe it's because I've not even had my fresh air. I really need to go on more walks, because I just
Yeah.
feel, oh, I need to take that tip. But yeah, and then I'll film, and I'll just end up deleting it, because it just
Yeah.
really isn't, I'm just not there.
You
So
have to feel it. Yeah, exactly.
especially on TikTok as well, because I think going back to that comparison and seeing that girl and all of these
Mhm.
sort of, everyone's got a perfect life, when it's just
Yep.
not reality. Like, you are going to have some days, I think, where it's, you might not be as productive or feel as good, but you'll have other days where you get loads of, shit done, and it's great.
Exactly.
So yeah, and also from your perspective of being a social media guru, like, because I get this question a lot, and I actually sort of think about it, like, what platform should you be focusing on, and is it better to focus on
Yes.
a few, like, let's say TikTok's going great, is it better
Yep.
to stay on that one platform, or should you be across like a lot of channels?
Yeah, so really good question. I think for me, I the same response. A lot of people have heard me talk about this. Is I believe in diversification of social media channels. I don't think you should ever put all of your eggs in one basket on a social media channel. I always recommend having two, and you should have one that is focused on photo content, one focused on video content. For me, that's Instagram and TikTok. I think if you're a new business, if you're just getting started, if you're just getting started as an influencer, you need the balance of the two, right?
Mhm.
A Instagram is a portfolio for you. It is your static content. It is where your content lives. People review it. They see it within a feed, a gallery. Instagram stories is a way for them to get to know you a little bit deeper. Instagram Reels is obviously an extension of kind of TikTok as well, but still really great growth potential. And I think that's how a lot of people are growing on Instagram, is by being discovered through Instagram Reels. So Instagram to me is still a very important channel for people. It's kind of your base. And if you have it as a business, it's really kind of a reflection of your website, right? Like, how many times have we heard of like a new brand and we're like, oh, let's look it up on like Instagram first to like see if they're legit. So I think like you kind of have to have that mentality as well, to come across as very professional. And then TikTok is just huge growth potential. I think brands are struggling on trying to figure out how they can enter TikTok, but I think you just have to get started, figure out, what your niche is, and, be able to build upon that. And, really create strong video content that you're proud of. I think TikTok is like the number one consumed social media channel right now. So like if you're not on it, you're totally missing out. So I would say a blend of like TikTok and Instagram are always kind of the two that I recommend.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And I think I cannot believe that some brands are still sleeping on TikTok, because I just, I get it's not for everyone, and I guess like definitely probably not for more like B2B clients and stuff. But
Yeah.
I just think the organic growth and the potential, like, it's just silly if you're not on there at least testing it.
Yep.
And it's interesting that you say that as well, because I've recently started a new role, and like clients are sort of just in that
Mhm.
stage of, do we go on TikTok? Do we test it? And I'm like, yes, please, let's go.
Yes. Yes.
Um, but I'm interested to hear your perspective on this. So,
Mhm.
from like a creator, like, perspective, and then a brand, like, what do you
Yeah.
think it takes for brands to grow on TikTok? Because
Mhm.
obviously you see like the success of like Duolingo and sort of channels
Yes.
like that, but is it authenticity? And what aren't brands getting right? Because obviously some
Yeah.
brands as well, they just haven't took off on there.
Yeah, and I think it's really understanding the community and understanding the
Mhm,
platform and how that works for you. A
mhm,
brand like Duolingo was very strategic of how they almost went in like unhinged, like go crazy, be one with the community. Like we want, they don't even talk really about like doing Duolingo. They
mhm.
talk about like
Yeah.
they have built a brand just on like that owl and the craziness behind them, but that has paid off indirectly by, their
Mhm,
signups. I think a lot of brands feel like they have to be crazy or curse or be unhinged or whatever you want to call it on TikTok, and you don't have to be that. That's one element or one content pillar to where you can create content like that. But a lot of brands are being educational. A lot of brands do more behind the scenes on TikTok, following more trends and incorporating their brands to it. So like I think the biggest part with any social media channel, you have to understand what is your brand identity on that platform. A lot of times people have a brand identity, but they're not willing to adjust that for a platform. A
mhm,
brand like Gucci, for example, like how should they show up? Yes, they have their beautiful campaign images and all of that stuff, but how can they take snippets of their videos or be able to like work with more real content with models and stuff like that? So like
mhm,
there's lots of different ways of how you can enter the space. You just need to take the time to understand like what is your unique selling point on that channel. And
mhm.
I think not a lot of brands do that, or they get so turned off and scared by it, they don't even get started.
Yeah. I think they sort of maybe test a few things, but not enough.
Yeah,
But yeah, as you say, it is really getting to know the platform, and it's interesting to see sort of what brands are doing on there and how that's
yeah,
going to progress. And obviously, the TikTok app itself is just crazy to me. I mean, the
yeah.
whole like e-commerce side of it now as well, with like the shopping and the like it's just literally gone from like
It's a
one
lot.
to another. Yeah, and
Yeah,
it is crazy. Like when you actually look at, a couple of years ago in lockdown, we're all just making, dancing videos on it.
right,
And
right.
now it's like people are actually like growing full scale businesses on there. Like
Yeah,
it is just insane. Um and leading on to another question I had is
yeah.
what oh sorry, I just absolutely nearly broke my stapler.
Oh no, all good.
Um, what do you think are like the secrets, I guess, or like really good tactics to, a successful social strategy? And like is it I guess there's loads of different stages and there's loads of different important parts, but is there
Yeah.
anything that you think, right, this is crucial, you need to
Mhm.
make sure that happens in order to have a successful campaign?
Yeah, I mean, I think to be honest with you, that's a tough one to answer for a variety of different reasons because it depends on where you're at and what your goals are. So, like,
Mhm,
as an influencer, if you're in growth mode and you want to try to gain as many followers as possible, it's about quantity. If you're really trying to engage your community and get more engagement, that takes a different type of storytelling with your existing content and stuff like that. But if you're a brand really kind of working through that, the tips and tricks are really there within a marketing campaign is to be recognizable and to have purpose. I think in a lot of
mhm,
ways it's not enough to just tell somebody, hey, buy this jacket, it is $30. You need to tell them what it's made from, you need to tell them why, you need to sell them on the lifestyle. So it's like different goals for different things, and I think you have to tweak your content to be able to speak to that. So like, when I worked at Forever 21, it was like telling the full collection story or working with influencers as well as models to make, the products be seen everywhere possible. So you're seeing that yellow jacket and you're like, oh wait, I saw that the other day on their social media. Oh, and I saw that on this celebrity was wearing it at that Forever 21 event and things like that. So I think you have to be consistent across the board, but understand what your goals are and tweak your content to be able to support those goals, if that makes sense.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything, and I think it's great for me as well. It's really insightful because I'm trying to be a sponge and learn as much as I can about like the social industry,
Yeah.
because it is quite intimidating, and there's a lot out there as well, and it's like hard to know like where to go for advice and
Yeah.
to learn about how to do it, and to get that practice in there as well, because I think it's one thing, as you said previously, to actually read about social media,
Yes.
and to even like run your own page, like Instagram page. But
Yeah.
I guess it's totally different when you have to actually, plan a full whole campaign for a brand,
Yeah.
and for like your own business as your experience.
Exactly. Yeah, no, and I can give a couple of examples of, like, places that I go. I mean, there's a website called Adweek that talks a lot about, advertising trends. There's a website called WGSN, which is very much focused on, like, women's retail and things like that. But also another tip that I tell a lot of people to do is if you have, like, favorite brands that you're following or even competitor brands that you're following, go to Google and create Google alerts for all of those, and you can do that daily, weekly, monthly, whatever, and you can get kind of like the highlight news articles that they have about themselves, and 9 times out of 10 it's talking about social media, it's
Mhm.
talking about marketing campaigns, it's talking about those types of things. So that's kind of how I stay on top of things. I read kind of hero articles, I read a lot of like fashion blogs and stuff like that, but then I also kind of have everything served to me through Google alerts. It really helps me kind of stay on top of those trends and see what everybody else is doing. Otherwise, it would be impossible to try to like figure it out all by myself.
Yeah, and I think that as well, alongside, doing everything that you do, it's so hard to find the time to actually sit down and go through trends and what's actually going on in the world.
Yep.
So I think that is a great piece of advice for people who want to get into the industry, to
Mhm.
to have that as sort of a, ongoing source of information for social
Yep.
media. Um, but yeah, thank you. That is really
Oh,
interesting.
of
I'm just
course.
definitely gonna take notes as well because I need to learn, definitely a lot more about social media itself as
Yeah,
well.
it's not as overwhelming as people think. I think once you get it, and if you kind of have marketing in your blood, you'll be great at it. It's just a matter of being organized on top of it and kind of managing as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, I think, it definitely does go hand in hand. When I was a marketing assistant, I, was sort of dabbling a little bit in it,
Yeah.
but not to the sort of scale that you've done, like being a social media manager and everything. So, yeah, it's super interesting to hear your journey and your
Yeah.
perspective on things.
Of course.
And I have another question, which is, if you were to hire someone
Yeah.
for, even let's say a brand, like if you were hiring internally, or what would you sort of look for? And if someone
Yeah.
was to maybe create like a portfolio, because that's pretty much
Yeah.
what I sort of, tell people to do, like on, or
Yeah.
even just improve their CV, like what
Exactly.
advice would you give if they were applying to a social media role?
Yep. Yeah, so very good question. I think from my standpoint, what I really look for is that people that are able to communicate in results. I
Mhm,
have this whole thing, so many people on their CVs and resumes, and I know this sounds very basic, but most people aren't doing this. They don't speak about like the results that they drove. So they'll
mhm,
say, "Oh, I worked on this campaign with 20 influencers." Well, what did
mhm,
it drive for the brand? Like, how do I know it's successful? So, like, I always tell people, think about the I did X, which resulted in Y mentality, and
mhm,
that's how you have to get comfortable speaking, especially kind of in the early stages, is being able to communicate, okay, I ran this company's social media and I grew their following X% over their previous year, or I worked with influencers and drove X% incremental sales or things like that, X% engagements. Those are the things that people are going to want to know. And then
mhm,
also being able to showcase a little bit that you are cross functional and able to work with a variety of different teams. I think a lot of people are like either good at just social media or just this, but I
mhm,
think to be a very strong marketer, you need to understand how the marketing function works. I call it, and this is kind of the technical term for it too, a T-shaped marketer. To where I have a broad sense of marketing. I know marketing, affiliate, SEO, brand marketing, production, loyalty marketing, etc. Like I know I'm not an expert at those, but I
mhm,
know enough to be good at them. And
mhm,
then my expert level is social media. So that's why it's a T-shaped marketer, because my expertise is in social media, but the top of the T is kind of all of the things that I've generally learned about marketing. And I think a lot of T-shaped marketers are needed, and that's kind of what gets you through, is kind of understanding, oh, this person can do a lot of things, not just
mhm.
only social media.
Yeah, and I think that is such a good point. Someone actually only told me that the other day. I think I put a story on and they replied like,
Hmm.
this is what a T-shaped marketer is. And I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh, super interesting. So I'd
I
never heard.
love it.
Yeah, it's a really great way to sort of put, I guess, like a visual aid into like what
Yes,
it
exactly.
is. Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think it's great as well if you do work in the industry to have a wider understanding of like different marketing areas, because
Yeah.
it will come in handy, especially when it can just be a minefield, when especially if you're in like a huge meeting or something and everyone's talking about different things, and you might just come across things that, if you have had sort of a broad awareness of different marketing you know
Yeah.
areas, then you'll be able to pick it up a lot quicker. uh,
Exactly, and you can participate in the conversation too. You can add your 2 cents, you have a deeper understanding to be like, "Oh, no, I just talk about social media." Like, so I think it benefits people.
100%, yeah. So yeah, I guess we'll probably wrap up this episode soon.
Yeah.
I just want to ask you a final question. So
Yeah,
obviously,
of
I
course.
know you have done so much and have so much wisdom. But what are your goals for, this year? Obviously, we're still kind of relatively
Yeah.
new into the year, into 2022. And, I know that you've obviously got a huge platform on TikTok and
Mhm.
obviously Moonrise Social and your tea brand. Like, what are
Yeah.
your main goals? And with obviously like the current landscape and the social sort of industry that we're in, like, what do you want to sort of focus on? And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, very good question. I think goals are always fun. I'm a big goal setter. If you can't guess by now, I love kind of planning and being type A
Taking
and all that
notes.
stuff. I think for me, I have a couple different goals. I think one of my biggest goals is to really scale my tea business. I'm very proud of kind of the products that I produce. We have a lot of great things on the pipeline. We just launched our own e-commerce site, and then we're currently only being sold to the US, but planning to scale that to other international markets. So, lots of exciting things there. And I would love to see that business grow into something huge. So, that from a professional standpoint, I think that's my biggest goal. I think, yeah, I would say that's probably the biggest goal professionally. I think personally, this might be a little bit TMI, but on a personal note, I'm actually starting my surrogacy journey. So I'm looking to be a dad over the course of the next year or so.
Oh,
So
that's
I think
amazing.
that's the biggest accomplishment, right? Is starting your own family. So my partner and I are very excited to kind of start that journey and see how that goes. So lots of big things coming in the next year, but those would be my two biggest goals.
Oh, that is, I mean, what a lovely way to end. But yeah, that is
Oh, thank you.
amazing. Obviously, huge, the best of the luck. I mean, you're
Thank you.
absolutely smashing it. And, it's so inspiring for not only myself, like, as you guys know who's listening, I am a huge super fan of Mario, and he's
Oh,
been
thank you.
an incredible inspiration for me because when I first started out, I literally had like no following and flow didn't really exist. So, to have to have people like yourself out there who are providing advice and support for people who might be lost and might want to learn more about marketing, it's so useful. And yeah, I can't even express how like grateful I am for you to
Oh, thank you
have
so
TikTok.
much.
It's
Thank
okay.
you. I appreciate that. That's very sweet.
And yeah, it's been amazing to have you on. Just
Likewise.
one final sort of end note, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you have like one sort of line or one piece of advice for anyone who wants to really like get into social media and be a social media marketer?
I would say the biggest thing is not to give up. I think it's
Mhm.
such a hard, whether you're going in as an influencer, whether you're going in as a marketer, whether you want to be a social media manager, you know, looking for jobs nowadays, it feels like everybody talks about how many jobs there are out there, but it is very competitive. Marketing is a very admirable kind of industry to be in, and I think a lot of people want in. So don't get discouraged if you apply to a brand and don't hear back, or you're freelancing and it's getting hard to get your first client. The payoff is going to be so great. Or if you're a content creator and you're not going viral just yet, or not getting the following that you need to have, it will come. But just be very consistent and passionate, and don't lose kind of that energy, because it's all about energy in marketing and making sure that you maintain that and keep kind of your ambition lit. So, that's my biggest piece of advice is just don't give up and just keep going and stay positive with everything, and it'll all work out. Because I think if Mario today was to ask baby Mario when he was first getting started about, could I have done half of the things that I ended up doing, I would have never believed you. So,
Mhm.
from that standpoint, you never know what's around the corner. You never know what your next job offer is going to be. You never know what your next project's going to be. Your viral content's going to be. You just got to stay consistent with it, and something will happen.
That is a great piece of advice to end on. And I think, yeah, like if any of you guys are listening and, you're really in a maybe difficult place, or, you've just graduated, or you're just finding it difficult, like that is just the key. Like keep going, be positive. You might get rejection. You might have a difficult, couple of weeks or a day or whatever it is, but, you have got this. And, looking at Mario's journey and even like from myself, my own perspective, you have really just got to keep going, and you will be fine. Um,
Absolutely.
so yeah, thank you so much again, Mario. It's been
Of
amazing to have
course.
you on. And yeah, I'm sure the Flow community will have, so much to learn from you. And guys, if you are not following Mario, which I know a lot of you probably will already because you're in the marketing space, but please go follow him on TikTok. He is so insightful, and
Oh, thank
I
you.
will link all of it, all I can't get my words out. All of
No, no.
his social channels and his tea business and everything else. But yeah, be
Amazing.
sure to check him out because he is such a great resource to go to for social media marketing advice.
Oh, thank you. And thank you so much for having me. I hope you guys got a lot of value out of this. And I'm always open for conversation. So if any of the Flow community wants to DM me or ask me any questions, I'm more than happy to, chat about marketing and give as much of advice as I can give. So thank you so much again for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you again, Mario. And be sure to subscribe and follow Flow as well, guys, if you haven't already. And yeah, that's pretty much it for today's episode. And be sure to listen out for the next one.